So this is the final session of Ideas Festival 2020, which topic is World in Fever, Surviving the Crisis Together. Ideas Festival is organized by the Aspen Institute Kyiv and Impact Hub Odessa. Так, а ось зараз я передаю слово Олександру Акименко, який є засновником компанії Yes&Design та співзасновником Ukrainian Emerging Leadership Program у Стенфордському університеті. Олександре, вам слово.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you for the invitation. I'm really excited to attend the festival. It's my second festival. Last year I've been in Odessa, and it was just amazing to feel the vibe of all of these intellectual talks and all of these people who gather together to share ideas with each other. And this festival, I invited very interesting guest for you, and let me tell a little bit about this very special person in my life. During my studying at Stanford, I was lucky enough to take his class. He's teaching at Stanford's Graduate School of Business, and he taught the class called Generative Leadership, which is the class about creativity, about how to bond with people, how to create new ideas, and how to use your full creative potential, which is, I think, especially needed for all of us right now in this very complicated times, in very hard times of global pandemic. And by the way, Dan is also special because he's been working at Stanford for more than 15 years already, and he's one of few people on campus who taught in all 7 schools of the university, which is just amazing. Very few teachers had this particular experience, and I want you to join me in welcoming Dan Kляйн, teacher, improviser, creative person, and one of the most prominent educators at Stanford, live from San Francisco. Dan, welcome. We are really happy to have you at Ideas Festival.
Thank you so much, Oleksandr, and thank you everyone in Ideas Festival. I'm honored for the invitation. I'm going to share my screen so that we can see some slides, but you can also set up the screen so that you can see me and the slides at the same time. So let me go to the present mode. Welcome to Unlocking Creativity. The way I think of it, each of you has within you an infinite capacity for creativity. Your ability to come up with innovative solutions to difficult challenges under pressure and on the spot is unlimited. It is okay, think about it this way. This is the image that I have. I'm going to use a metaphor. It is as if each of you has, as your creative capacity within you, you have a magical treasure chest of ideas. And every time you need an idea, all you have to do is go to your creative treasure chest and open it up. And inside you will find exactly what you need. It is overflowing with gems and jewels. It's got magical rings and amulets, and there are potions. And whatever you need in the moment, it's right there. And every time you go, it is full. It has just what you need. You can never empty it. The problem is, if you're like most of us, myself included, oftentimes when you go to your treasure chest, you find that it is locked tight. And that's not the only problem. Sometimes you can't even find your treasure chest. All you have is some illegible map in a different language. And let's say you were to find it, the worst case scenario, you find that it is guarded by a fierce dragon who is threatening to burn you up. And you know the feeling, you know that moment when you need a creative idea, the pressure's on, and you think, I'm on the spot, I need to say or do something creative right now. And you reach for your creative resources and you start to feel self-conscious, and you feel that burning on the back of your neck, and you feel the dragon breathing on you. And you think, you know what? I'm not going to do the creative idea right now. Let's just do the safe idea. The way I see my job is I'm here to help you find your treasure chest, to help you learn how to unlock your treasure chest, and to help you deal with the dragon that's guarding that treasure chest. And in this metaphor, I think the dragon is fear. And we have lots of fears and we carry them around with us all the time. I don't think that you will ever slay the dragon. I actually don't think it's healthy to slay the dragon. A person who has no fear is very, very dangerous to themselves and others. But I want to help you deal with the dragon so that you can get to your treasure chest. I'm going to show you the tools that I use, the way that I approach this work. I come from the world of improvisation, as Oleksandr mentioned. Improvisation is an interesting field. It's a performance study. There are a lot of types of improvisation. The kind that I studied was theatrical improvisation. It's where a group of actors get up on stage and perform a scene or a skit or a song, or in fact an entire play that is made up on the spot, sometimes based on audience suggestions, sometimes based on nothing. It turns out that the skills required to do that, to come up with a fully formed play on the spot and under pressure in front of a live, sometimes paying audience, those skills are really valuable in lots of other contexts. And so that's what I've been doing, is I've been teaching the skills of the theatrical improviser to be used in whatever realm you're in. These are the three things that I want to highlight that are the most important for the improviser's mindset. You must reimagine failure, you build on ideas, and you welcome play. I'm going to go over each of these through the session, and then maybe we'll get a chance to demonstrate a couple of them. I'll give some things that you can do wherever you're watching. You can try these out a little bit as we go, but don't worry. I'm not going to ask you to perform or be on display. Although, Oleksandr, I might ask you to help me demonstrate a couple of these things. I do want to say this about improvisation. I get to teach this material, not just at Stanford, but all over the world. I travel around to different organizations and I share these ideas, and I'm fully aware that when the word improvisation is spoken, there are a couple of reactions. I can see it on the audience's faces. I see there's a bunch of people in the room who I can tell when we say improvisation, they say, oh, good, I love improvising. I can't wait. What are we going to do? And then there's a bigger group that when they hear the word improvisation, I can see that they are looking for the exit. What is their escape route? How can they get out of here before they have to do this? One of the things that I've found is incredibly important for this work is that I create a space that is safe enough for people to be willing to take risks. So when I'm live and in the room, I want to let people know I'm not going to make you get up on stage. I'm not going to put you on the spot unless you want to. And then I invite people to engage in different activities that help build their skills. So let me show you what some of these ideas are. The tricks to accessing your creative treasure. Trick number one is go faster. Go faster. Now, there's a couple ways that I think about this. If you set deadlines, even if they're artificial, you may have more availability and access to your creativity. When you have, there are some types of creativity that are nice if you get all the time in the world, but there is a whole nother value of setting a deadline. It's as if you were, rather than wandering all throughout the mazes of the system of caves, you just blast right through. There's a experience that I see at the end of every quarter at Stanford. My students perform an improv show, and they get up on stage and they make up stories and scenes, and the audience loves it. And almost every quarter, without fail, I see this happen. Somebody comes up to the performers afterwards. They say, "That was great. I love how you guys do that. I could never do that because I can't think that fast." This is the dirty secret of improvisers. They are not thinking fast. They are going fast so that they don't have time to think. If you accelerate your output, what you're doing is you're bypassing the sensor. It is if there is a watcher at the gates of your mind who is looking at all of your ideas and deciding, is this one good enough to say out loud? Should we let this one out into the world? And the sensor is stopping you from creating your output. They're not only stopping you from sharing ideas, the sensor is stopping you from getting ideas. So if we go faster, we bypass the sensor. If we raise the stakes and make it more important, we tap into new resources of energy and possibility. I want to talk about reimagining failure, because the only way that you can go faster is if it's okay to mess up. The reason that we go slow is because we want to be cautious, we want to be careful, and caution is valuable in so many contexts, but not in idea generation, not in creating new innovative solutions. The time for caution must go. So we have to think about failure in a different way. Everybody has a reaction to failure. Everybody. In fact, where you're sitting right now, if you can, if it wouldn't cause too much of a disturbance, say out loud, just say, "I failed." Go ahead and say that out loud. Good. I want you to say it again. "I failed," but this time I want you to really put some feeling into it. Like, you really failed. What is it like if you just you really messed up? "I failed. I failed." Usually when people do this, their faces scrunch up. There's a tension that gets into the body. We freeze up and we tighten. I think this is healthy. I think what we're doing is we're guarding ourselves. We're guarding ourselves against punishment. We tense up because if we made a mistake, we're probably about to get punished. Maybe we learned this when we were hunter-gatherers during the Pleistocene, and we knew that if we made a mistake, the saber-toothed tiger would get us. And so we had to guard ourselves. Or maybe if we made a social mistake, we would invite somebody to physically attack us. I don't think that's the threat anymore. I think the threat now is that we're going to be judged. If we make a mistake, someone is going to judge us. They're going to criticize us. And so we tense up as a protection against it's a physical protection against a psychological threat, a psychological attack that we perceive is coming. It may not be coming, but we still guard ourselves against it. I actually see people do this. When they make a mistake, they hit themselves. They go, "Oh, come on. Oh, darn it. Come on, Dan, do better." And I think that what's going on there is that that's still a defensive mechanism. They're saying, you don't have to punish me because I'm already punishing myself. And it's a way to stay safe. In this work, we don't want to stay safe. We want to play around with danger. When we make a mistake, we celebrate. We do the exact opposite of scrunching up. Try this if you can, right where you are. Say, "I failed." Throw your hands in the air and say it triumphantly. 1, 2, 3, "I failed." Hopefully, you're getting some interesting looks by doing that. Mistakes are gifts. They're opportunities for something new. We learn faster through failure and we discover new things. There are dozens and hundreds and thousands of stories about breakthroughs in science and industry that came from mistakes. Charles Goodyear left a concoction on the stove for too long, and he vulcanized rubber, created an entire industry with automobile tires. Spencer Silver was a chemist who was working on a strong adhesive. He's trying to make something really solid and that was sticky, and he failed. And he made a weak adhesive. And after years of first internal and then external marketing, He made this for his company 3M. It turned into Post-it notes, which is a wild commercial success. The weak adhesive ended up being valuable, but it was a mistake. It was not what he was trying for. Alexander Fleming was a notoriously bad lab scientist who was really bad at keeping his laboratory clean. He went on vacation one August. He failed to clean up properly before he left. When he came back, he noticed that the patterns of growth in the Petri dishes was interesting. In fact, some of them, there was no growth at all. He said, that's interesting. He didn't try to fix it or undo it or blame someone else for the mistake or the problem. He said, that's interesting. And that's how he discovered penicillin. This is the last story I'll share. This one is fascinating. I looked this up on, you can find this on Wikipedia. Sildenafil is a hypertension medication. It was in, I think it was Pfizer was the company that they had it in human trials. When you get a medicine into a drug that goes into human trials, you've already committed millions of dollars into it. So they were testing it on real people, and it's a controlled study, so they're monitoring the reactions. Turns out it doesn't work. It doesn't have any impact whatsoever on hypertension, on high blood pressure. And it was a failure. So they decided to cut their losses. They recalled all the medicine. They said, we're going to cancel the study, send back all the medicine that's out there, study's over. None of the men in the study would return the pills. It turns out that sildenafil is the generic name for Viagra. It was the very first erectile dysfunction medicine, and they discovered it by accident. But when they had that accident, there's an interesting thing that we do. We celebrate failure and we say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that means. I wonder what's possible. Here's another piece that I think is really, really valuable. Your job to access your creativity by unlocking your treasure chest sometimes is really, really difficult. Your treasure chest is locked up and your key doesn't fit it. Your key might fit someone else's treasure chest and their key can fit yours. This is one of the most powerful things that I learned from practicing improvisational theater. I don't trust my own ideas as much as I love someone else's ideas on stage. In fact, when you're attached to your own idea, you should be wary. Sometimes we say, one of the things we say about improv is, no matter how good the idea you have right now is, whatever your partner just said is 1,000 times better. Your partner's ideas are brilliant, and that way you build on their ideas. I want to do this. Actually, maybe Oleksandr, can you share your video and come back here? Awesome. I want to show this exercise. This is something that we do sometimes in improvisation. We get to play and pretend and imagine things. This exercise is called the shared fake memory. Let me see if that's my next slide. Yeah. So in the shared fake memory, we're going to pretend, we go back a long time. We met many years ago, but we're going to pretend that we go back even farther. We're going to pretend that Oleksandr and I we grew up together. We've been friends since childhood. Our parents were friends before we were even born. And we've done everything together. We worked together, went to school together. We've traveled the world. We've had all sorts of adventures. And we're going to talk about one of these adventures. This is our shared fake memory. And the way it'll work is one of us will say, hey, remember that time? And then we'll say whatever, like, remember that time we went fishing, or remember that time we went to Mars? Like, it doesn't matter what you say. It could be boring. It could be interesting. It could be realistic or impossible. And we're going to go back and forth adding to the memory. As long as the key is it's not something that we've ever actually done before. So we can't say, remember that time we were in the classroom at Stanford or whatever it is. We can't say something we've done before. Remember when we were on Zoom? But something new, and we're going to go back and forth. We're going to do this in 2 rounds. In the first round, let's disagree about the details. We'll disagree about the details. Oleksandr, do you want to start or do you want me to?
Yeah, you start.
Okay, I'll start. Okay, remember that time that we went picking apples at the apple farm?
Oh, I think it was blueberries.
Wait. No, oh, that's right. It looked like, they looked like blueberries.
It was just little bushes.
There were bushes, but they were apple bushes. They were blue apples, which was kind of weird. And remember, there was we got in trouble because we weren't supposed to be picking that day.
Yeah, and actually, I think I remember it's slightly different. I remember very welcoming person who met us on the very front of the farm and invite us to pick this blue apples.
No. Oh, that welcoming person! I remember that they were pretending to be very welcoming, but they were an undercover agent who was actually tracking us. That's what I think. And it was fake welcoming. Okay, good. We'll stop right there. Awesome, thank you. So in that exercise, we're going back and forth. We're building a memory. We're playing off of each other's ideas, but by disagreeing about the details. I'm going to teach you some vocabulary from improvisation. What we're doing is we are blocking ideas. We are saying no to each other's ideas. Now, sometimes when people play this game, and by the way, I encourage you to try it out. Try it with somebody. Try it with a family member. Try it with a kid or an adult. It doesn't matter. Try this game. Fake memory. In the first round, you disagree about the details. If you flat out disagree, if you just say, no, that did not happen, that's a block. If you partially agree and partially disagree, we call that partially accepting and partially blocking. If you partially block, it's still a block. If you block any part of the idea, you're blocking. So one of the first things we learn when we practice improvisation to help unlock our creativity is we accept all ideas. It's a scary place to be. We're going to do this exercise again. And this time, Oleksandr, we're going to come up with a different memory. We're going to forget the apple blueberry one. And we're going to start by saying, oh, remember that other time? And then whatever the other guy says, say yes, that's what happened. Agree wholeheartedly that is exactly what happened. We're not going to disagree anymore. And then add to the memory. There's an important rule here, which is if you have a chance in this shared fake memory to make the other person look good or look bad, make sure you make them look good. We're not allowed to say, oh yeah, but remember you were so scared, you started crying and you were just helpless, you couldn't help at all. Like, don't make them look bad just because they have to say yes to it. It's a made up memory, it's fake. So make them into a hero if you have a chance. Okay, Oleksandr, do you want to start this one or do you want me to start?
Yeah, you start, but beforehand, you stop sharing the screen. It will be better to see.
Oh, stop share so we can all see. Great idea.
Yeah.
All right. Now, hopefully I can get back. I know I have to do a little tricky thing, but okay, here we go. So I'll start. Remember that other time that we went, that we flew to New York?
Oh yeah, I think it was 2008.
Yeah, that's right. It was 2008. It was on New Year's Day of 2008. It was like everyone had 2008 signs.
Oh my God, it was so fun. I remember the New York City was shining like I never seen before.
Oh, it was shining. And you had your camera. You took amazing photos of the lights of the city. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, I remember you on this picture standing just in front of the Times Square.
Oh, that's right. And everybody gathered around because you were taking my picture. It looked like I was a celebrity. So it was like I got a huge crowd from Times Square.
Because you were improvising all the time.
That's right. I was doing it. I did an improv show in Times Square and everyone was cheering and clapping. And then they all wanted your photos. So that's how you ended up with 1 million followers.
Oh yeah. And $1 million.
Yeah. And $1 million. All right, good. We'll stop right there. Awesome. So that's the idea. That's how we. All right. Let me get back to my slides, which I have to do a little trick. Exit and then restart. So that's the idea of building on what your partner has to offer. Whatever idea you have, go with their idea. You've probably heard the phrase "yes and." Yes and is the mode that we are in when we are unlocking each other's creativity. It's fun to be in Yes and, partially because you don't have to think, do I accept this or do I not accept this? You don't have to spend any of your energy in the evaluative critiquing mindset. That mindset goes against creativity. It's as if there are two different systems in the brain. One of them judges and edits and censors, it critiques and evaluates. It's the skill that we call critical thinking. And it's essential for getting through life. It's a higher order skill, and we have to get good at that. In fact, you have been successful at critical thinking. I know, because it's what got you to where you are today, wherever that is. But the more we do it, the more we wipe away our ability to be creative and generative and spontaneous. So part of what I do is I train people to get into the other state of mind. Yes and is the essence of getting into that other state of mind. I'm going to show you another technique for creativity. I call this distracting the dragon. Like I said, we're never going to slay the dragon, but we may be able to keep the dragon busy while we access our own creativity. Here's an activity. This comes from Keith Johnstone, who's a brilliant improv director and author. And I have a list of books I'll share with you at the end. But he wrote Impro. And Keith Johnstone's exercise is this. And just give you a chance to do it right now. It's going to take I'm not even going to have you do it for more than a minute, but I encourage everybody to get out a pen or a pencil or something you have near you. Maybe Oleksandr, you can do this at the same time. And you can do this in any language, whatever you feel comfortable with. I'm going to have you write a short story. It does not have to be a good story. You're going to write this as quickly as possible. I'll tell you what the story is about in a second, so you don't have to think about, whoa, what's it going to be about? I'll tell you what it's going to be about in a moment. But while you are writing the story, I want you to count backwards from 100 out loud in your own house, in your own room or office. You are saying the numbers backwards out loud while you are writing the story as fast as you can. We're not going to make it all the way down to 1. This is a very challenging thing to do. Let's see what we get. How about this story? This story is about a princess. The story is about a princess. Start writing the story about a princess while counting backwards from 100. Ready, go. All right, good. I'm going to stop you right there. Barely getting started, but I wanted you to get into the sense of this cognitive distraction technique. Hopefully, if you were playing it, you found this incredibly challenging to do. We're working in 2 different modes simultaneously, and it is very mind-bending. I did it this morning. This was the story that I had come up with. I started with this morning. This morning, I went to the game shop to buy some candy for my mouth. When I got there, I found goblins eating my candy. This made me so mad that I grabbed some sticks of gum that chewed up into making a weapon. Getting over it took some time, but then I could stick the goblins back, making them hopping mad. And then I stopped there. Oleksandr, did you get a chance to write yours about the princess?
Yeah, my story is miserable, but I will read it. It's
Yeah.
not even a story,
Yeah.
I will read it in Ukrainian. Принцеса сиділа і скучала, чому б їй не помандрувати, подумала вона. So princess was bored and she thought that she has to travel somewhere.
Great. I'm not interested in the quality of the story. I'm interested in the experience. One of the things that we have to do in order to get good at creativity is we have to let go of the judge. We have to let go of the censor and the editor, the one that is constantly evaluating how we're doing. It's been said that we cannot simultaneously create and critique. We have to be able to turn off the sensor and the editor, and these are some of the techniques and tricks to do it. Go faster, use distraction, and focus on making your partner look good. The last one I'm going to run through is play. It's the state of mind that we were all in when we were kids all the time. And it's the thing that gets lost when we learn how to plan ahead, when we learn how to set goals and measure our results. It's what gets erased with critical thinking. The goal is not to go back and just be like a kid again. It's to bring in our childlike sense of wonder and play and marry it with our adult ability to plan ahead. I don't know if you can remember when you were a child and the world was brighter and it had more colors and there was magic and inanimate objects had personalities that you could have relationships with. This is what we want to try and get back to. I love this video. This is Reina meeting her robot. See if I can play it. It's less than a minute. I love that video. Reina just makes friends with the robot immediately. And then at the very end, you can tell she's about to make friends with the manhole cover too. She's just a very social child. All kids play. There's all sorts of reasons why we play, but the pure delight and joy in the activity never actually leaves us. We just end up suppressing it. It's not just kids that play, animals play. It clearly has a primary biological function. When you think about why we play, let's do a quick thought experiment. What are your answers? And if you want, you could even put them in the chat in English or Ukrainian. Why do we play? What are the reasons why we play? What purpose would play provide? Why do we do it? As you think about that, these are some of the things that I and researchers have put together. We play to learn, we play to connect, we play to discover, we play to create, we play to engage. There may be plenty of other reasons. The more I work with this, the more I realize how fundamental it is to who we are as humans and as a social species. Let me just give you a little rundown of some more concepts about play. And in the conversation that I have with Oleksandr, towards the end, we can also talk about how to use this in your work as well as in your life. This next piece comes from a book by Dr. Stuart Brown, who founded the Institute for Play. It's a book called Play, How It Shapes the Brain, Opens the Imagination, Invigorates the Soul. Dr. Brown studied people and asked them how they used to play when they were children. Turns out he identified 8 different play personalities. While I go through these, think about yourself and what did you love to play? What inspired you when you were a kid? What was fun for you when you were little? And see which categories you fit into. Usually people are a combination. They have 1 or 2 primary ones with some other ones below. But what were your modes? Here they are. The first one is the joker. The joker loved to make people laugh. Maybe they were a practical joker or a class clown, but they loved to get people laughing in any way that they could. The explorer loved to go on adventures. Maybe that would be hiking or traveling. Maybe they would explore ideas, but they loved to find and discover new things. The kinesthete loved to play physically. Whether it was sports or dance or just climbing trees, it was anything physical and in the body. That's the kinesthete. That's how they played. The director loved to orchestrate the play. They were in charge. They would get their friends together and say, now we're doing this or now we're doing that. Sometimes they would actually direct a scene or a story, but mostly they would organize the play. The collector gathered things. It might be baseball cards or toys or dolls, or even experiences like stamps on a passport, but the collector loved to get everything. A storyteller loved anything to do with stories. They'd maybe like to write them or make them up or tell them or create videos or plays, whatever it is, they love stories and sharing stories. The competitor liked any game with a winner and a loser. Anything, you could be sitting, it could be physical, it could be mental, whatever it is, they love to compete and see who wins. And the artist is a creator. They love to make stuff. It could be music or sculpture or art or forts. Building forts was an artist. It was a creator mode. So think about all of these. What were you? What did you love? What were your modes? You know, I started with the treasure chest metaphor, and I realized why that's how I think of it, is because when I play as a kid, when I think back on my favorite times playing, it was a game called Dungeons and Dragons. And in Dungeons and Dragons, I loved it. I couldn't believe how fun it was to create entire worlds. And then I was a dungeon master, so I would create these worlds and have my friends go through the worlds. So if I look at this list, I think what I love being was storyteller director. Storyteller director, that was the combination. So what's your combination? How did you like to play as a kid? And I want you to think about it this way. The way you played as a kid is an insight into your greatest source of inspiration as an adult. Your creative resources are most inspired by your play style as a kid. Personally, I find that the work that I do around leading workshops and getting people to experience their creativity is kind of like being a dungeon master. I feel most excited about it when I get to take people on a journey and discover with them what else is there. And I want to give people adventures by sharing these ideas with them. And in those ways, I'm most creative because I'm tapping into my childlike sense of play. I want to leave you with this list of books, and I can share these and make sure they get sent out to everyone. I mentioned play. Improv Wisdom is a book by my mentor at Stanford, Patricia Ryan Madsen. It's a beautiful little book about the principles of improvisation that are taught for the theater, but used in your life. Impro is the one I talked about with Keith Johnstone, who came up with a lot of core principles for creativity, spontaneity, and storytelling. The other ones are also beautiful. I want to highlight Playful Parenting by Lawrence Cohen. It's a great book about raising children using a playful attitude. And one of the essences of that book is that we don't just play for fun. We play to work through the hard things as well. I think it's something to remember in this moment, that these could be hard things that we're going through. It doesn't mean they have to be serious. And sometimes play is a better way to figure out what's going on and how we feel about things. It doesn't just have to be lighthearted play. There can be very serious play as well. So this is a set of books, but another thought before I jump over to Oleksandr. Before I do the final quote, here's a penultimate quote. You can learn more about a person from an hour of play than from a year of conversation. This is a quote that you will find attributed to Plato. I did some research. It is not from Plato. Plato never said this. It was attributed to him more than 100 years ago. Plato didn't believe this at all. Plato really liked conversation, I think, but the quote has been carried for more than 100 years. I think maybe it came from Play-Doh. Maybe it was a marketing quote, and they wanted to encourage people to play. But I like the resonance of it. And before I give the final quote, maybe we could do some Q&A. Oleksandr, do we have a little bit of time for that still?
Yes, we do. So one of the questions, first of all, I want to encourage everyone to ask your questions, if you have one, to the Q&A section. And we have several of them already there. And I will start from the question, how do you think can we, like all this things which is connected to play is extremely valuable, but how we start in our group, team, organization, whenever we are now to start these techniques and to create some value from this play.
Yeah, I think that I love this question, like how do we start? And my suggestion is to start small. do tiny experiments. I want to take some of the lessons that we learn when we think about design thinking as a technique for problem solving. We want to do little experiments. There's another idea that I like, which is little bets. Start small, try a little thing. Put a little playful game at the start of a meeting to put people in a mood that literally only takes 3 minutes. Play the remember that time game for 3 minutes at the start of a meeting, and then get to work and get to the business of the meeting. But use little experiments to bring play in safer pieces. I wouldn't say restructure your entire organization so that it is based on play at all times.
Okay.
Introduce it and let the momentum roll.
Yeah. We also have a question from one of our participants. How important is our theatrical abilities to improvisation? How is it interconnected?
This is another great question. One of the places I teach is in the theater department, but most of my students are not actors. I get a handful of actors, but I get a lot of students that come from other disciplines. And in my experience, I've been teaching it for 30 years. It's nice to have some theatrical skills, but sometimes they get in the way. What's most important is that someone can be genuine. It's all about eliminating fear. And oftentimes my best performers are not ones that have, quote, theatrical abilities. They're able to listen. They're able to pay attention, notice, observe, and then add a little bit. And then the more you practice it, if you want to become a performer, for example, then you should study about theater, and you should learn more techniques about how to use your voice. But for using this to be more creative, you don't need any theatrical skills.
Okay. Do you think this creative mindset that you are teaching is somehow connected to the success which the Silicon Valley have during last decade in the world, and all these tremendous companies building super innovative products? Yeah,
I do. I think it's fundamental to the success of the secret sauce of Silicon Valley and the innovative technologies. One of the reasons I believe that is because embedded in the technology in Silicon Valley is Stanford. Fundamentally it's the partnership between government, industry, and education that has led to the explosion of technologies, and that history goes back a number of decades before the current technological revolutions. But within that, Stanford has been piloting and has been out on the front edge of creative education, of creativity techniques. The D School is just the latest iteration of it. My mentor, Patricia Ryan Madsen, started teaching at Stanford 45 years ago. And she was part of a coalition of professors that were the Stanford Creativity Initiative. And they were a group of people who believed that creativity can be taught. It is not something that you either have or don't have. It can be taught. And it is fundamental, is woven into the fabric of the university. The D School is an interdisciplinary program that has emerged from the program in product design and the blending of art and engineering to create, not just create products, but create creators. And I think that has been essential for the success of Silicon Valley, is that it's baked into the fabric of all of these organizations.
Thank you. Another question from one of our guests: how to turn yourself into play mode?
Yeah, how to get yourself into the play mode. That's a really nice question. I have a couple theories about it. One of them is sometimes you can trick yourself into a play mode. You can just go, oh, I'm gonna play a game here. But sometimes things are so hard that we can't just play. If you've just had a great loss of some kind, if you just lost a family member or a friend, or if you just lost a job or some or an opportunity of some kind, you may need to grieve that. I'm not saying we need to not feel what we have to feel. We have to go through those emotions, but it doesn't mean that we're never allowed to play. And there may be the opportunity to slip into humor. Humor is a great entryway into play. And then games, I've been exploring, I don't know if you can see, I'm in my game room where I've been collecting and exploring games. There's so many resources available to play. And in fact, there's been a renaissance, an explosion of fascinating game mechanics and dynamics that have flooded the market. So there's computer games, digital games, but the online analog board game world is exploding. So there's lots of resources. And then I always think that playing with a partner is the essence. Say, yeah, my job, I'm going to make them look good. And it takes the focus off yourself. One of the reasons that we play, that I think improv training is so valuable, is you realize it's not about you. And it takes the ego out of the process. It's not about you.
Is play somehow connected to leadership, and how?
Yeah, wow. These are awesome. Okay, so I do believe that play is connected to leadership. I think one of the responsibilities of the leader is to make sure that the environment is conducive to doing great work, and especially in this day and age, where things are changing as fast as they are, where the disruptions are coming every day, we have to be able to be fluid, flexible, agile, and imaginative. The leader's responsibility is to create an environment at work where ideas can flourish. If the work can be high pressure, but if there is no play, you will not get any new ideas. Everyone will be very, very cautious. They will only venture to do slight improvements, incremental improvements on ideas. It will be as if the dragon is breathing on them. But the play, creating a sense of play in the environment is a way to help distract the dragon, or even befriend the dragon. What's the thing you're most afraid of? What if we pretend that happened, and do an imaginary exercise like, what if that happened? What if our company got wiped out tomorrow? What would happen? And play with that idea and see what new discoveries could come from it.
As I know, you've been working with one of the prominent professors from Stanford, called Carol Dweck.
Yes.
Created this amazing concept of growth mindset.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the world are now using this concept and trying to teach kids and adults
Yep.
the growth mindset concept. What is the most essential and valuable from this experience of teaching the workshop with her, and what is the core of this idea we can use in our everyday life?
This is what I've come to understand from working with Carol, who's not just a brilliant researcher, but she also applies these techniques when she's sharing her ideas. There are two ways that people think about talent or skill in any domain. She's done a lot of research specifically on math skills in school children. If you have a fixed mindset, you believe that you're either good at math or you're not good at math. And that's the way it is. And if you have a fixed mindset, you might be really good at math, or you might not be very good, but the fixed mindset will limit you in how well you're able to improve. In fact, if you have a fixed mindset, you are less likely to try stuff. You're less likely to allow yourself to make any mistakes. The growth mindset believes that no matter where you are in math, you can always get better. And the growth mindset is more likely to try harder problems, to learn from their mistakes, to step in and actually grow. And it turns out that people who have a growth mindset outperform people who have a fixed mindset in the long term. I believe that creativity is in exactly the same responsiveness to mindset as math skill. It's not that you're either creative or not creative. Everybody can develop their capacity. everyone can get access to their treasure chest. Some people think, well, I'm not very creative. I don't have a very good treasure chest. You do. The growth mindset is what will help you find it. Knowing that you can always get better and closer.
So actually it's a muscle. The creativity is a muscle that you can develop every day. Every day.
Every day. And sometimes you will do stuff that feels incredibly uncreative. That's part of the path. Sometimes one of the ways that I love, if I'm stuck and I need a new idea and I can't come up with a new idea, come up with a bad idea. I realize that the reason I'm stuck is because I'm judging every idea. So just go for the worst, most just absolute, the most destructive idea that you can think of that will not solve your problem. It will absolutely make it worse. And sometimes that just opens the floodgates and a bunch of new ideas come out.
Thank you, Dan. It's so inspiring. There are a lot of questions in the Q&A section, but I ask you to answer these questions by typing answers. If you can, please do that, because a lot of people wanted to ask you more, but we unfortunately have very short...
Yeah, these are great. Well, I have a chance after this is done to go through these and answer these questions.
I think so. You can see.
Okay, I will stay on and get to typing. Really fun to engage with these ideas and questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you a lot for the session, and I'm really sorry to interrupt it. I think it could go on and on and on, but
can I give one final quote?
Absolutely.
This is what I want to share. This is a final quote, and it comes from Keith Johnstone, who did the book Impro. And he says, Keith Johnstone says that there are people in the world who accept ideas, and there are people who block ideas out of habit. And you can tell who they are by whether or not they say yes or no. And this is his quote. He says, people who say yes are rewarded by the adventures they have. And people who say no are rewarded by the safety they attain. When I think about that, what it makes me realize is that we have a choice. We can choose adventure and we can choose safety, and they're both good choices. But I know if you guys have tuned into this session at some level, you are choosing adventure, and I hope you have a great one. Thank you very much.